Feminism is dying, and feminists are getting desperate. Emma Watson, a leading star from the Harry Potter film series, is getting a lot of attention lately because of a speech she gave at the United Nations Women Conference for a new organization called HeforShe. But it wasn't your typical feminist speech because, unlike most of them, it actually referred to the struggles that men endure too, and not just what women face.
I've seen young men suffering from mental illness, unable to ask for help, for fear it would make them less of a man or less of a man. In fact, in the UK, suicide is the biggest killer of men between 20 to 49. Men don't have the benefits of equality either.
Oh, well, this is just great! Finally, feminism is transcending its inherently sexist label and starting to care about men's rights and suffering too. Because, for all the supposed evils of the patriarchy, men are still the ones working most of the construction and coal mine jobs, fighting and dying in wars, suffering from higher suicide rates, etc. Finally, it seems like feminism is going to be about true gender equality, which, according to Emma, is the purpose of the new HeforShe campaign. Wait a minute. He for she? For? I mean, the definition of for is intended to belong to or be the object or purpose of. He is intended to belong to or be the object or purpose of. She? This doesn't sound like gender equality. This sounds like subservience to women, not equality with women. I mean, if this new organization is supposedly about gender equality, why not call it us for us or we for we? Or to make it fair, maybe we can just switch it around and call it she for he. But let's be real, of course. Could you imagine if an organization was started called she for he? Feminists would immediately label it as a suppressive patriarchal group that subjugates women. Now wait a minute, I thought this campaign was supposed to be about men and women's rights. But the very title of it implies men fighting for women's rights, and not really much about fighting for men. After briefly mentioning high suicide rates among men, as if that's supposed to make men feel cared for, Emma quickly cuts to the true point of her speech and to the mission statement of HeforShe.
This is what HeforShe is about. It's about freedom. I want men to take up this mantle so that their daughters, sisters, and mothers can be free from prejudice, but also so that their sons have permission to be vulnerable and human too. Reclaim those parts of themselves they abandoned, and in doing so, be a more true and complete version of themselves.
I want men to take up this mantle? So that's why this is called HeforShe. You want men to take up the mantle. You want men to do the work for you. Explain to me again how this movement has anything to do with fighting for men. So let me get this straight. You say this movement is about women and men. You cite statistics about how men suffer from higher suicide rates. But then all you do for men is urge them to take responsibility for your suffering by taking up the mantle and working for you? Well, I guess that makes perfect sense. That's why it's called HeforShe. Is this really a pro-man campaign? Or is this just more man-hating feminism masquerading as gender equality? Well, I did a bit of research, and I found out that this whole Emma Watson speech and the new HeforShe organization is nothing more than a front group for an old feminist institution that is using this as a PR campaign to rebrand feminism in an age where feminism is losing its popularity and influence. That's right. This was the entire point of Emma's speech and the entire point of HeforShe. Even Emma herself said,
I was appointed as Goodwill Ambassador for UN Women 6 months ago. And the more I've spoken about feminism, the more I have realized that fighting for women's rights has too often become synonymous with man-hating. If there is one thing I know for certain, it is that this has to stop.
Man-hating? There's a growing movement and social strain that believes feminism is not about gender equality, but simply about women. The recent hashtag Women Against Feminism social media trend is just one example of this growing opposition. So the truth is that Emma's speech and this HeforShe campaign is nothing more than a PR stunt to appeal to men and women who are becoming increasingly disenfranchised by modern feminism as nothing more than a man-hating, woman-worshipping ideology. By citing a few quick facts about male suicide rates, Emma and HeforShe are trying to make feminism relevant to men. But in true feminist style, the extent to which this campaign is helping men is to order them to take up the mantle.
I want men to take up this mantle
And fight for women, hence the name HeforShe. If you take a look at the HeforShe Twitter page, it says, "Solidarity Movement for Gender Equality. Help us reach 100,000 men." Gender equality? How can you claim to be for gender equality when the very title of your organization and campaign implies subservience to women? This is clearly nothing more than a recruitment campaign to galvanize men in favor of the same old feminist bullshit. The HeforShe website says, quote, "In recent years, men have begun to stand up in addressing inequalities and discrimination faced by women and girls." What? What a flat-out lie! The exact opposite is happening, which is the whole point of the HeforShe campaign in the first place. According to Emma, there is a growing strain of dissent against feminism as being man-hating. Well, if there's a growing trend of men who think feminism is anti-man, then why does your website claim that in recent years, men have begun to stand up in addressing gender inequalities being faced by women and girls? Which one is it? Clearly, it's not so much that men are beginning to fight for feminism. Men have been doing that for decades. It's been the politically correct thing to do. No, the real new trend is that men are beginning to question feminism, which is exactly what Emma references in her speech and the whole reason the HeforShe campaign exists in the first place. It's an effort to recruit men to fight for feminism, to fight for she. I mean, this is a whole new level of feminist evil. It's bad enough that feminism has mostly been about empowering women at the expense and neglect of men. But now that people are waking up to the destruction that feminism has caused, you come out with this HeforShe campaign, include a brief reference to male suicide statistics, and then urge men to fight for she, for women, and start the vicious feminist cycle all over again. That is depraved shit. But the depravity goes to a whole new level when you realize who's funding and backing this campaign. According to the HeforShe website, their campaign title partner is JP Morgan Chase & Co., and their special event headline sponsor is Barclays. 2 mega banks are their sponsors. You gotta love this. A movement committed to equality and fairness, funded by mega-rich, ultra-powerful banks that are the opposite of equality and fairness. Even worse, the HeforShe campaign is not even its own campaign. It's just an offshoot of the already present UN Women organization. In fact, if you go to the HeforShe website and you click on its terms of service, it redirects you back to the UN Women page and their terms of service. They don't even have a separate terms of service. That's how interlinked these two institutions and organizations are. The HeforShe campaign, which markets itself as concerned about the interests of men, is nothing more than an offshoot of an old feminist organization. This is not about men. This is simply a rebranding campaign by an old feminist institution called UN Women to try to remedy the problem of feminism's growing unpopularity. It's all just another banker-sponsored elitist attempt to handicap most men so that they don't reconnect with their masculinity and become a threat to the current power structure.
I have a theory that humans are always selfish, no matter what. And everything they choose to do, they do it because it makes them feel happy. They do it because it makes them...
Take the red pill to the next level. Learn more about feminist bullshit and a range of other crucial topics by becoming a Red Pill member. Gets you exclusive videos, newsletters, and other content that no one else gets to see. Click the link below to learn more.